When you think of places to enjoy the outdoors, I think of a lot of people think of Northern California rather than Southern California. But actually, there's a lot to do right here in the mountains surrounding Los Angeles. Now, yesterday, Ann and Farley Olander are the authors of Call of the Mountains, a big, beautiful book telling about all the outdoor adventures here in Southern California. Pleasure to have you both here today.
Thank you, Greg.
Pleasure for us to be here. Thank you.
Well, you know, as I say, this is a beautiful book with a lot of beautiful photos of the mountains and the stories that you tell as well. But, you know, one reason I wanted to do this show is, though, I think I'm one of those people that I'll fly halfway around the world, you know, to Rome or something, or love Europe, and when I'm there, I'll go see everything. But yet there's so many things here at home in my backyard that I don't really go out. And, you know, like a lot of people, you overlook what's in your backyard. And I thought, you know, how often do I never go out to the San Bernardino Mountains or the San Gabriel Mountains and the San Jacinto Mountains that you talk about in the book. And so anyway, I just found it fascinating to read about what's all here in our backyard that I haven't been doing. So what is out there? What am I missing?
Oh, I'm so glad to hear you say that, because people think of Los Angeles, they think of Hollywood, the beaches, or Disneyland, and here you're thinking mountains, and they're absolutely beautiful, and they're largely unknown by a large part of the world, and so this is one of the reasons we wanted to do this book.
Yeah, because again, I think people do think of Northern California and Yosemite or something, or, you know, I don't know, Mount Shasta or Mammoth or something like that, but there actually is so much more. In fact, well, I've actually done a lot of hiking in the Santa Monica Mountains. I've hiked most of that. But again, but there's so much more out there if you're willing to drive just a little bit, you know, to get beyond the city.
And these, within an hour's reach, you can reach most of these mountains, the San Bernardinos, San Jacintos, and San Gabriels.
Now, how dependent is that upon traffic? Are we talking about on a good day or a bad day?
Well, on a weekend day. But even from Los Angeles, within an hour, you can be up in the mountains within an hour easily.
What should I say that my horror story when we came down, actually, one of the last times I was out there, maybe this is why I don't go as often, we were on New Year's, we were up at Big Bear and came down the mountain, and we saw the trail of red lights from the tail lights from the cars behind us. It took like 3 hours to get down the mountain. Yeah. But that's my horror story, and I think that was a holiday weekend, so we won't count that.
Right.
But I think actually what I want to do here is just some of these beautiful photos that you have here in the book. What are we looking at here?
We're looking at Cucamonga Peak, and actually that was taken from our upstairs window at sunset.
Wow,
and that's
this
the
is
view
from your upstairs window?
And that's the view we see in the wintertime. You know, this
when
was after a fresh snowfall.
A room with a view, I think that would be it.
Yeah.
So is that common? You get the red colors like that during
That was an unusual sunset, but a lot of times, yes, we get some very unusual colors at this time of year especially.
And you took all these photos, by the way?
Yes, correct. Yeah,
and there was no special filter on that? Was that just
No. Once in a while I'll use a polarizing filter, but there was no filter on that photo at all. That was the color.
Once I get started with these photos here, I might not be able to stop.
This is what we call the islands in the sky. This is typically what you see in the springtime when you're up in the mountains. This is looking at the San Gabriel Mountains from a trail in the San Bernardino Mountains. And we're above the clouds, and these mountains just kind of float like islands in the sky. Yeah,
that's really amazing. And again, it reminds you. Well, I love the variety, too, because here you can see even, you know,
and this photo is of Jackson Lake. That's near Wrightwood, which is within an hour's drive of downtown Los Angeles.
So, I mean, just in those few photos, and I'll show more later, but you get a sense of just the variety of what's out there and how beautiful. Because I think, you know, again, that's the thing about, although I'm kind of a city person, I like living in Los Angeles, but yet it's nice to know you can get away from it all without, like you said, maybe going an hour away.
That's right.
And you've got this whole other world out there.
That's right.
And
that's what's amazing, too, that, you know, 10 to 15 million people in this basin, and with an hour you can be out there by yourself.
Yep.
In the wilderness.
Yeah, away from it all. Well, and maybe you want to keep it that way for the privacies. But what is your you know, in these travel books and stuff, they'll have like your top 10 or something. I mean, for the newcomers, the tourists, or the people here who, you know, are intrigued and want to go check it out. Is there I don't know if this is too touristy or not, but is there a top 10 list or something that people should check out there? Or your favorite sites?
You want to name some, Ann? Or?
Well, we like to hike, of course, and I think everybody likes to walk a little bit, or you can just drive in your car and get out on the path a little bit too. But our mountains have the streams for fishing, horseback riding, cycling, boating. In the wintertime, there's snowshoeing when we have snow, cross-country skiing, and downhill skiing too in some of those places, or just playing in the snow. Picnicking with your friends, looking at the wildflowers, finding wildlife.
Birding.
Okay. Have a whole list.
Rock climbing?
Yeah, rock climbing. And as you point out there, really that's a whole year-round list of activities. It's not, you know, it's summer and winter.
Absolutely.
So.
There's even aspen leaves turning in the fall. You don't have to go to Colorado for that.
Yeah, I should tell my friends who just like flew to New York or Maine or something to see the leaves change. I should tell them they could go right up to.
Yeah, within 2 hours of downtown LA, you can see aspen turning.
Now, there are also some kind of distinctive landmarks, though, as far as, well, Mount Baldy is one that you
Right.
talk about a lot. I guess just because it's so visible from Los Angeles.
Yeah, well, from downtown LA, as you look to the northeast, you see the whole sweep of the San Gabriel Mountains, with Mount Baldy, which just stands out. And
I'm
it's
trying to see if I can find it here.
It's not actually the highest mountain in Southern California. It's a little over 10,000 feet. And then if you look, say, from downtown, look to the east, you see the San Bernardino Mountains and San Gorgonio, which is the highest mountain in Southern California.
I just learned that today, actually.
Yeah, it's 11,499.
But, okay, so I assume then, because I always think of when you talk of, well, I think of Mount Whitney, but I guess you're considering that not to be really like Southern California, meaning like Los Angeles region.
Yeah, we're really talking about the highest mountain ranges in Southern California, which does not include the Sierras.
Okay. So what area, what is that, like southeastern California?
Well, Southern California. The mountains really rim the Los Angeles basin.
Okay.
But we don't talk about the Santa Monicas or the Santa Anas, which are part of that too.
But these are the three highest ranges
Oh.
in Southern California. They all have peaks over 10,000 feet.
And now, which, I think, is it Baldy, the one that's very popular though for people to go up to the top and look at just because of what it is? And
yeah, it's so accessible.
And that's one thing. On the one hand, you know, we're talking about things you can do out there and getting people out of the city and enjoying the outdoors, but yet the downside to that is, though, that people do take advantage of it and go out to the mountains and leave, well, have graffiti. Obviously, really, I don't know if I can find these photos, but paint on the rocks and throw garbage everywhere. And you talk about one creek where people put dozens, I guess, of abandoned vehicles.
Correct.
And I wasn't aware of that either. You know, that there's a whole downside to it too, unfortunately.
There is that downside, but it's really a minor part because there's so many volunteer groups besides the Forest Service working to keep the mountains clean. There's just a few areas where you have the impact, but they're so close to urban centers.
So is that what? So people who live really close just use it as a dumping ground then, or something?
In certain areas, but primarily the mountains are very free of graffiti, very free of trash. But that is a problem, the popularity, which has more impact on watershed and on biodiversity, and those impacts that are more important.
Sure.
You mentioned Mount Baldy. I was going to say that's another activity that people come to our mountains for that know it, because people train here to go to the higher mountains. People train going up Mount Baldy or San Gorgonio in order to do Whitney or to do Kilimanjaro or even, what else? Denali. I've met people that were doing that. And so because the elevation gain is pretty high and large, I should say, and you have high peaks too.
And I believe you said beforehand that you actually meet a lot of people from all over the world when you're at Mount Baldy.
Oh, absolutely. I can't believe it. You know, one time when I was working as a roving reporter for a local newspaper, I had to ask people some question, and so I chose to go to the top of Mount Baldy and ask people with Farley Olander, but I took the pictures. I had to interview people and ask them what they intended to do on Halloween, and I couldn't believe all these people hunkered down in the rock shelters on the top of Mount Baldy. You've been there perhaps, so you know what I'm talking about.
I haven't actually.
Okay.
But I'm going to after I read this book. I'm going out there.
Anyway, half the people that I interviewed were from overseas.
Wow.
Can you believe that?
Well, that's probably a higher percentage than obviously than here in the city. If you just pick 10 people at random, I don't think 50% would be from overseas. Yeah. So that's
interesting tidbit. But they do train here too, our local people.
All right, we will be right back with Ann and Farley Olander talking about the Call of the Mountains. We are back with Ann and Farley Olander today talking about the Call of the Mountains, a big, beautiful book about all the outdoor activities in the mountains surrounding Los Angeles. So, well, I have not been to the top of Mount Baldy, but I have heard about the Angeles Crest Run.
Yeah, the AC 100.
You want to tell what that is?
That's a race where they run 100 miles and there's 48,000 feet vertical gain and loss in that race. Usually the winner's around 18, 19 hours, and they have a 32-hour cutoff for those people.
And I know about that because I interviewed Dean Karnassus before, who has run in that, and I think he was the winner, or at least first or second place, whatever. Of course, as they say in that run, if you complete the run, I mean, that's one of them, truthfully, where you can say, talk about being a winner, or just making it through the race is quite an ordeal.
Absolutely, they get a little medal, you know, when they finish. And they run through some of the most beautiful country in the San Gabriels, too.
Yep. Yeah, well, and again, and that's just showing some of these photos. I mean, just the outdoors are just amazing. What we've got around
That's
here.
a photo of Mount San Antonio, or Old Baldy as it's called, or Mount Baldy.
Oh, so this isn't Mount Baldy, or it is?
Well, officially it's Mount San Antonio.
Mount San Antonio.
But everyone calls it Baldy.
Okay. So, what are some of the, again, I love to go hiking, and what would happen was I would go hiking every weekend here in the Santa Monica Mountains, but then I did all the trails, and so then I stopped going, because I had done a couple of them several times, but then I kind of been there, done that. So then I thought if I was really going to keep it up, I'd have to go further out, and I just haven't driven out there yet.
Yeah.
So what are some hikes I should do out there in the San Gabriel or San Bernardino? What have you got out there?
Well, in the San Gabriel Mountains, really close, you could go up Mount Wilson, or if you want to go to Sturtevant Falls out of Chantry Flats, you could do that.
Oh wait, I'm going to take these one at a time here. Go up Mount Wilson. What are we talking here? Is this like climbing Everest or something, or what are we?
Well, no, it's a fairly high elevation difference. You go like 5,000 feet.
5,000. Okay, I can
But
do
it
that.
starts right out of Sierra Madre. There are actually several trails up to Mount Wilson.
Okay,
And
so
then
up
you have
near Pasadena area.
right,
Okay.
and then you have the observatory up there. When you get up there, a very historic area.
And how long does that generally take to do something like that?
That would take 6 to 8 hours. to do
Okay.
that.
Done that kind of hike then. And so I'm sorry. Then what was your next one? You said
Oh, I was just going to say Sturtevant Falls. That would be a more gentle trail. Normally you drive to Chantry Flats and hike from there, walk down and in and out. But the road to Chantry Flats is closed right now, so you'd have to walk a little bit further to get there.
why is the road closed right now?
Well, they had storm damage last year, and I think the picnic area they're restoring right now.
Okay. Because that's another side of this is I think they've had flooding and fires and
Right.
like Los Angeles, you know, we're
That's
all
right.
one day we're going to all go up in fire or we're going to wash away or something, you know, I don't know. I'm just thinking positive here, you know.
Right.
So.
No. Oh, but it's beautiful being under the waterfall there, you know.
And that's one thing the San Gabriels have a lot of, are waterfalls.
Yeah, I saw some of the photos in here and I didn't quite realize that, but there are, what's the highest one in the, do you know?
Probably Switzer.
Switzer.
Falls
Switzer.
would be I believe is the highest.
It's out of La Cañada,
Well, off the Angeles Crest Highway.
and it's not too far to get down to
No,
that
I mean,
one.
You know, a family could easily walk to that.
You cross the stream a few times, but it's real easy crossing.
And that is kind of the nice thing when you mention families, that really there's a whole range of activities, again, for either, I guess, people going on hikes by themselves or families. Or, But one thing I wanted to ask you, though, okay, I did my day hikes in the Santa Monica Mountains, and sometimes I would go all day, and you know, from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. or something, you know, which for me, you know, 12 hours or something, and carry my food in that. But here you don't really see many animals. I mean, not really. I hear something every once in a while.
No.
But out there, I think you actually see bears and mountain lions and stuff.
We've never seen bear or mountain lions. We've seen bighorn sheep. We've startled deer.
But they're there?
They're there.
They're there,
Bears are
okay.
there. The mountain lions are there.
So should you, I mean, is it advisable to go hiking by yourself out there or not? Do people do it, or are you supposed to?
People
go in
do it,
groups,
but it's
or-
really not advisable because you can get into trouble. If you're not careful, you can get into the trouble. These mountains can be dangerous if one isn't aware of that.
The rock is real friable, and so you need to watch out and carry water with you, and you probably do that anyway.
Yeah, I do need my water. That's
And there's very good hiking books. John Robinson and John McKinney have hiking books about all these areas to look at.
And plus the Forest Service ranger stations have information.
And I think even groups like the Sierra Club organize
Right.
hikes and things like that. Because
Yes.
I actually belonged to the Sierra Club for a while, although I keep getting the things in the mail, but I haven't renewed it.
So
Sorry.
you'll have to do that. Another place that you might be interested in is Mount Lowe. Have you tried that? That's a historic area, and it's very pretty. You go out of
Altadena.
okay, and you follow what was the route where they had a help me, Farley, railway and a
Yeah, Mount Lowe Historic Railway. It was one of the most popular sites in Southern California in the early 1900s. Millions of people actually went up there.
Now that was the more of the, I would say, like the scenic ride up the mountains or something.
Yes,
like
it was
that.
a scenic ride up the mountains, and they're restoring that with interpretive signs. You walk the old railway bed. They've done a lot of work.
Now, when you say restoring it, do you mean making the path accessible, or are they actually
Well, the path is
reconstructing
accessible.
the
They put up
railway?
an interpretive sign showing
Okay.
what it used to look like, the trolleys, the buildings that were up there. It was quite a complex.
There's a volunteer group that are doing that, and they're rebuilding different outlooks for you to know what was there in the past. So it's very interesting, and it's a pretty hike. People are going on their bicycles up there some too, biking in the mountains also, so it would be a nice place to go. And we see little kids going up there, and there's an echo phone, you know, it's on top of Echo Mountain where there used to be hotels and a zoo. And so they put a little echo phone so you can yell through it and hear your echo across the mountain. And
do the yodeling or whatever.
Right.
yeah, I like that.
And, well, here, actually, I'll just show another photo since we're just show
Well,
it again.
speaking about it,
Right, that's Mount Baldy. That's off the Mount Wilson Trail.
Oh, so this is what you'd see.
That's what you'd see.
Great. Well, hey, I
looking
should check that out.
backwards.
And I think you talk a lot too about, well, in some of these areas you need permits and things though too, right? You can't necessarily just, like here, I can just pull up in the car and pay my parking fee and I'm out the door, but
Yeah.
you actually have to plan some of this in advance or make arrangements.
Yeah, it was
or-
in wilderness areas. There's 3 wilderness areas in the San Gabriels, and there's one in the San Bernardinos and one in the San Jacintos. You actually need a wilderness permit. They're free, and well, the San Gorgonio Wilderness is the only one where they actually limit the number of people that go in, just to keep the impact down.
So that's the real purpose of it? It's not like fundraising or something, it's just that they're trying to limit the number of people?
That's
and-
right. Keep control and get a count of how many people are using the wilderness areas.
But I don't believe you need a permit to go Mount Low or Chantry Flats
No.
or Mount Wilson.
No, you don't. It's if you park on Forest Service land, then you have to have the Adventure Pass, which you can buy any place in
And I
the
guess
area.
probably the good thing about that is that it also helps keep track of people who go up there in case they don't come back down anytime
Yeah,
soon.
that's one of the reasons too.
It's a security factor, right? And you mentioned bears, seeing bears or something. When we had an overnight with volunteers in the San Gorgonio Wilderness area, I bet, at least half a dozen of the groups that they stopped to check their permits had seen a bear
Wow.
in the last 24 hours, and a bighorn sheep, matter of fact, too.
I think I'd rather see the sheep. Well, I think, but they got a big horn though.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I
But
know.
they're pretty shy critters.
Yeah.
Well, we will be right back with Ann and Farley Olander talking about the Call of the Mountains. We are back with Ann and Farley Olander today talking about the outdoor activities in the mountains around Los Angeles. And actually, we're going to show a little bit from your, okay, first, this is the view from your front porch.
Yeah, looking through a nectarine
Not
tree.
too bad there, I think.
Cucamonga Peak is the
So
highest
it's,
peak there.
Okay, that's what right here in the background. And then, and I think I just lost my page. Oh, no, I didn't.
There it
Oh,
is.
there I am.
And this
good.
is standing on top of Cucamonga Peak, looking back down in the valley where our house is.
You want to show me where your house is?
It would be right in here.
Okay, there they are. So not too bad. I guess you got a view out there too. And how long does it take you to get from your house to up there?
To the trailhead, it takes about 20 minutes to
20
get,
minutes.
but then to hike up there, it's a 13-mile round-trip hike.
So you probably hiked all this, what, a zillion times now?
Well, quite a few times.
But not gazillion.
Not a gazillion. No.
But I mean, well, actually, I think you said though, even writing this book though, you kind of discovered some new things in the process, or
True, and we kept going back because we wanted a different picture, and we did a different story about it too. So yes, but this is one that's we're familiar with.
And it's interesting that you mentioned some of the history that I don't, I certainly wasn't aware of. That the one mountain, there's what they call the original point, or what?
Oh, the initial point. Yes,
Initial point,
every
okay.
parcel of land in Southern California has been surveyed from that point.
And you said it was what, millions of acres?
Well, you're talking thousands and thousands of square miles in Southern California.
And where is that?
It's on top of San Bernardino Peak, and it was established in 1852. And you can still see the initial point mine, which is a big post. And so
But they
surveyed-
don't still use that though. I
No,
take
they
it.
don't. Well, it's still the official initial point for Southern California. If you go have your land surveyed, it goes back to that point
Wow.
still.
So I guess just the technology's probably gotten a little slicker there
Yeah,
or something.
right.
huh?
Absolutely.
They probably got
Right.
the lasers and.
But if
Yeah.
you get up there to the site, then you'll see that different surveyors have come up there and they put their stamp there on the bottom of the monument.
Yeah.
to show that they've been there, because it's kind of like holy ground.
Yeah, it's nirvana for surveyors.
Yeah, and really even not that long ago, like 150 years, and that was
150 years.
Right.
Yeah.
And the people, who, if they, I hope they got some good land tracts at the time, because think of what the value of what that lemon grove, the one you were talking about, the lemon groves that used to be in your backyard or something. Think of what that.
Oh yeah. You just don't think about it that way.
Of course, and well, we're talking a bit of the downside though, is that you said also that you actually have the metropolitan area though creeping into the mountains of these days.
That's part of the problem, is they're urban forests, and that's the impact. And that's part of one of the reasons we wrote the book, is to show people, you know, we've got some beautiful mountains, they need protection.
And they have put more wilderness areas in place and that sort of thing, so that it won't all be condominiums anytime soon.
No, there's still a threat. Well, actually, Anne could tell why we got into the book at the Wilderness Conference several years in 2000.
We attended a conference in Sacramento, and the keynote speaker there had been an environmental aide to a congressman back east for many, many years, and he limped his way to the podium and said, well, I will not ever be able to see wilderness areas except from the edge looking in. But he spoke passionately about the idea of wilderness and how it can lift us from the daily drudgery that we all experience sometime. And he urged each one of us to contact other people and show them how the wonder of wilderness can enhance our lives. And so that's how the idea came to me. Wait, I can show people about the beauty and the wonder of our mountains, and in so doing that, inspire more safeguarding.
Yeah, absolutely. Because on the one hand, I mean, I'm not against development, but I do think, though, that I'm being more of a city person. But I do think, though, I mean, especially when you see, you need places like this. I mean, we don't want the earth to just be like one big parking lot or super highway or something. And, you know, you do need a little bit of the outdoors. And again, I mean, just, I don't know, what, smell the flowers? If
Yeah, sticky monkey flowers, there are the yellow ones.
And
that's something that's surprising. You look at these mountains and you don't think there's beauty like that in there, and once you get in, it's amazing.
Well, as I say, I like to travel, you know, especially overseas and stuff. But when I look at this, you know, again, it seems almost like you're looking at geography around the world or something. But instead, it's all in this.
It's
one
unbelievable.
area.
I was going to show, this is Johnson's pasture, and this is above Claremont, and the people in Claremont are trying to keep that from being developed. And it's an ongoing process, but it looks like it's working.
And they're just one of many conservancy groups who are working in the mountains to protect these areas, to keep them open so people can enjoy them.
Yeah. Well, again, personally, I think the pictures speak for themselves, because, you know, it's just great that we have areas like this around here.
Yeah,
and,
this
and
is
who
one of
wants
our
to see it
favorite
all?
areas up in the San Jacinto Mountains. That's a very favorite rock for rock climbers, Lily Rock or Tockwitz Rock. It's a rock climber's haven.
Is that how high is this?
That's around 7,000 feet right there.
7,000 feet? And do you know what the elevation gain is here, or what they're actually climbing up? Is that 7,000 feet? The whole?
Well, the top of the Tockwitz Rock
Okay.
is around 7,000. They're probably 300, 400, 500 feet of rock climbing there.
Do they do the freehand climbing or whatever?
Some do, yes.
Yeah.
They practice there to go on up in the Half Dome, you know, in Yosemite, or they go out to the desert. But in the summertime, it's too hot there, so they come to the San Jacintos to rock climb. You can see them.
So the training ground for.
Right.
Well, so in our last little bit of time here, are there any other tips you'd have or places you'd recommend for people who want to kind of explore the mountains out there and see what?
Just go. I would say even they could go to Palm Springs and take the tram up to go up into Round Valley.
I have done that.
Yes, isn't that beautiful?
It is.
And you can go any season too, winter or summer, spring, and fall.
The only thing, okay, I have a little bit of an issue with heights, and I didn't do too badly going up, but what unnerved me was, I hate to say this, pardon me, but the women would scream every time we went over the thing,
Yes.
and I was fine, but they started screaming, just like, okay, everybody, just shut up. I didn't say it, but I was thinking that.
They still do that. We took some friends up at Christmas time, and every time you go over the connection, they go, woo!
That unnerved me more than the actual swing itself.
Yeah, I know. That's weird, but you're right. We have some of the most beautiful mountains in the world, and we too like mountains around the world. But these are comparable and surprising. You just don't know.
Well, it's a beautiful book and beautiful mountains, and I've got to get out there myself. So, this is Anne and Farley Olander. Thank you both very much for being here today.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you so much for inviting us.
The book is The Call of the Mountains. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We'll see you next time. So it was a pleasure to have you both here.
It was